Hello! Are you ready to get a sneak peek at the future of our beloved NES console? Welcome back to our monthly series, where we showcase 5 fantastic indie NES games in development that are set to bring the 8-bit magic back. These talented developers aren't letting the NES fade away. They're reimagining the game with fresh, innovative titles you'll be itching to play. So spread the word to your friends, get your nostalgia engines revving, and let's take an exclusive look at this month's hottest NES indie gems that will soon be available for you to play. And make sure you stick around until the end, because we have a bonus game reveal you won't want to miss. So have you heard of BioCreeps? At one time this game was called Xenocreeps, but the names have been changed to protect the innocent. Or maybe it was just to avoid confusion with other Xeno games. Anyway, BioCreeps is an upcoming NES game by Nate Eilers, with a recent addition of Lucas Kerr joining the team. Basically, you play as a couple of badasses on a mission to blast all of the enemies on each screen, defeat the boss, and then hit up the shop for some sweet power-ups. Then rinse and repeat this cycle of awesomeness. What makes this game unique is that you're shooting from above. That means you have to get creative with taking out those pesky aliens. No more boring vertical shooting. You gotta find ways to get above those suckers, whether it's falling from a platform or jumping up and shooting them in the face. Plus, when you shoot, your character's propelled up into the air, so you can keep blasting your way to the ceiling and hang out like a boss. You can also charge at an enemy to stun them, but that usually feels risky because if you do touch the enemy without charging, you'll lose a life. The graphics here are really playful. Like this bearded shopkeeper, he looks like he's seen some serious stuff, as do your stogie-smoking main characters. The enemies are aliens of all varied types, but overall, I'd say this has a really cartoon look, at least more so than it looks realistic. The sound here, pretty fantastic. The tunes are rockin', and I'm pretty sure the credit scene uses samples. Either way, the soundtrack is really well done, as are the sound effects. For instance, when you blast something, it feels like you're blasting it, thanks to the sound effects. So is this game fun? Oh yeah, it definitely is fun. Some of the best NES games are known for their couch co-op features, and had this come out during the NES heyday, I'm sure it would have been a hit. BioCreeps is perfect for couch co-op with a buddy. Plus, the levels are really well designed, and once you get a hang of the controls, it's easy to play it exactly how you want to. My personal insight here is I got to play this as a multiplayer experience at the Midwest Gaming Classic, and it really stood out to me as something fun and unique. So I was sure to make a note of it so I could reach out to the developer and find out more about the game. Luckily, he offered to share this demo for review. Now, from my understanding, there are some known bugs that they're working to fix before they release this as a public demo, but be on the lookout for that very soon. So if you're into arcade-style action games, or just love co-op games that you can play on the couch, then BioCreeps is definitely for you. And as for me, I think this game is a must-have for any NES collection. Nate and Lucas have really knocked it out of the park with this one. So here we have a first look at an upcoming NES game called Courier, brought to us by KN Games. If you're a fan of the cyberpunk aesthetic and love games like Shadowrun, you're in for a real treat. In Courier, you play as Conrad, a man on a mission to liberate the city from the clutches of a sinister corporation. The game starts off with a Metal Gear-style stealth mechanic, where you hide in the bathroom and sneak up behind enemies and steal their weapons and items. From there, you make your way through the city, battling enemies head-on and speaking with NPCs, all while upgrading your abilities and playing hacking minigames. So let's talk about the graphics for a second. I like these. They're really unique and definitely fit the cyberpunk aesthetic. Conrad is a man dressed in black with a jack import on the back of his neck. And the optical phones used to call NPCs and save your game, it features a cool portrait of a character. The sound here is nothing to sneeze at either. The music starts off moody while you're trying to sneak around, and then it intensifies in scenes where there's more action, making for an even more immersive gaming experience. So I had a chance to play this game at the Midwest Gaming Classic, and I can say that it's definitely a lot of fun, although the learning curve seems a little like it'll take time to master. But that's exactly what you want in a game like this. Overall, I think the game is perfect for anyone who loves action-adventure games with stealth elements, as well as fans of cyberpunk adventures and the Shadowrun series. A big shout out to KN Games for providing the footage you see here. With KN Games' track record, this one should definitely be on your radar. I, for one, can't wait to get my hands on it again and see how the story unfolds. Up next, we're taking a look at a delightful oddity, Jane Austen's 8-bit adventure. So this is a 2D platformer from Bitwise Reprise LLC, and it puts a pixelated spin on classic literature by starring none other than the English novelist herself, Jane Austen. So let's fire up the NES and dive into a world where Jane faces off against characters from her own novels. Gameplay-wise, this is a no-nonsense platformer where you're hopping from platform to platform, collecting pages of a book, and using a quill, yes, a quill, to fend off enemies. It's kind of like if Mario and Castlevania had a baby, and that baby was raised by a British author from the 1800s. Anyway, the real charm of this game lies in its unique setting. Playing as Jane Austen is a quirky novelty, and it's sure to put a smile on your face if you're a fan of her work. I mean, how often you get to see a famous novelist duke it out in an 8-bit universe? When it comes to the graphics, this isn't a mind-blowing spectacle, but it does have a nostalgic 8-bit vibe we all know and love. I think it would be interesting to see some more detailed tiles inspired by games like Castlevania, filling up the backgrounds, but what we have here is pretty decent. As for the music, I'd say it's spot on. It really captures the atmosphere of each stage, sort of whisking you back in time to a pixelated version of Jane Austen's world. I mean, who doesn't want to hear some chiptune castle tunes? Jane Austen's 8-bit adventure is a quirky, entertaining experience for fans of platformers. I first got my hands on it while we were streaming the NES Dev Competition games, and it was clear by the chat that people were digging this one. So it's cool to see developer Matthew Justice working to take this game from a demo to a full-fledged adventure. My one tiny gripe is the stair climbing mechanic. Sometimes it feels like you need to be pixel perfect to make Jane ascend those steps, but hey, the game's not finished yet, so there's still hope for improvements in that department. And once it's done, you should be able to play it on your NES, or it should be available on Steam as well. So what do you think? Do you think Jane Austen's 8-bit adventure looks like a quirky, fun addition to your retro gaming library? If so, I recommend keeping your eyes peeled for this platforming oddity, and see for yourself if Jane's quill is mightier than the sword. So welcome to Chaos Between Realms, a rad new top-down action-adventure game with RPG elements that's currently in development for the NES. You get to play as DP, the hero on a mission to stop a mega monster that's about to ruin the world. But you know what? DP's got a new name now, Jin. Apparently this rename was due to people getting frisky with the letters DP. Come on guys, DP stands for Demo Player. I don't know what you were thinking. Anyway, originally this game was a demo for a Game Jam competition, but since then, the devs have been working hard to turn it into a full game. The game is being developed using NES Maker, and they're fusing together the shmup and adventure modules to create a totally unique gameplay experience. So let's dive into Chaos Between Realms and see what kind of wild adventures we can have. So the game starts off with a side-scrolling shmup stage, where you're basically a badass in a mech suit. You'll eventually come across an end boss who's a troll. And here's an interesting part. The troll is actually from another NES Maker game called Troll Burner. This game is full of references like this, and this makes the game NES Maker community driven. So if you're into that scene, it's really fun to pick up on the references. Once you've defeated the troll, you'll enter into the overhead action RPG mode, which feels kinda like Zelda, but instead you have a gun and a dash. And like Zelda, it only gets better from here. You level up your gun, and you can switch between abilities, making the gameplay even more exciting. The graphics here are pretty fantastic. The cutscenes are especially cool, with close-up portraits of different NPCs you meet throughout the game. The only graphical drawback is sometimes it's a little hard to tell where you're supposed to go. Like, some of the terrain can be walked over and some can't. But honestly, I think this is intentional, and it just adds to the non-linear difficulty of the game, so I'm not even mad. As far as the sound goes, I gotta give a shout out to RAF Labs for doing such a killer job on the sound design. The music rocks when it needs to rock, and it's perfectly moody for the more somber scenes. The sound effects are spot on too. Is this fun? Oh heck yes. I had an absolute blast playing this game, and it's surprisingly lengthy too. There are 2 paths you can take at the start of the game, which leads to at least 1 replay value. Plus, leveling up your gun and switching abilities keeps things fresh and exciting. Alright, so I did experience a crash during my initial run, which I passed on to the dev team, and they assured me it'll be fixed before a proper release. And honestly, even with that little hiccup, I think this game is still pretty great. So who's this game for? It's perfect for anyone who loves action-adventure games on the NES with a good story. It reminds me a lot of Zelda or maybe even Star Tropics in some ways. It's definitely worth playing on your NES. The story and gameplay are top-notch, and I find it hard to believe that any NES fan would be disappointed with this one. Welcome to the world of Anna, the prisoner in a video game. Brought to you by East Pixel for your Nintendo Entertainment System. The game kicks off with you controlling Anna, roaming around until you get sucked into the television. Exciting, right? Now, let's get down to business. The objective is to find the lost scrolls and escape the curse. Sounds easy? Nope. This is a challenging platformer where you have to maneuver through different terrains. The demo here has the jungle. But don't worry, you have multiple chances to get it right. And by right, I mean not dying. Let's face it, dying is inevitable in Anna. But that's where the fun lies. It's super frustrating, and you'll die over and over again. But that's okay, because the checkpoints represented by green flags have got your back. As you progress, you'll learn and strategize to get past those challenges. And you know what? The feeling of beating those challenges is awesome. Okay, we need to talk about the sound, or lack thereof. As of now, with the demo, there's no sound, no music, no sound effects, no nothing. But don't worry, we're still fairly early on in the development process, so the right sounds could either make or break this game. Imagine a moody, intense soundtrack that amplifies the stress of trying to get through these difficult traps, or a really adventurous song that builds your determination to conquer the level. The possibilities are wide open, so it's exciting to think about how the addition of sound could take this game to the next level. Oh, and let's not forget the graphics. They're pretty cool. I dig this animation style, and everything here is easy to recognize, from the bloody spikes to the trampolines. And this black background helps you keep an eye on Anna, so you won't lose her like you lose your keys. But I digress. Overall, Anna seems like the perfect game for anyone who loves a challenge and who isn't afraid to die a few dozen thousand times in the process. If you're a fan of games like Super Meat Boy, where you die countless times to master the levels, Anna is probably your calling. This game is perfect for anyone who loves a challenge and wants to add a unique genre to their NES collection. Now, I stumbled upon Anna on Twitter and decided to give it a go. And I was not disappointed. East Pixel has done an excellent job of creating a game that's both challenging and enjoyable. So if I were you, I would get my hands on Anna and get ready to die quite a few times. But have fun doing it. So as a bonus, we got some exciting news for you. Developer Matt Hewson was all set to release a new NES platformer called Super Sunny World in just 30 days, inspired by the classic Super Mario Bros. But hold on to your hats, because after creating the initial assets of the game and the engine, Matt realized that it would need a little more time to become fully realized and fleshed out. That's okay, because what's impressive is this isn't just some hack. It's an original NES game created from scratch, and it's still coming along great in a very short amount of time. And that's not all. Matt plans to release this game as a physical cartridge once it's all finished. How cool is that? He's been working on this platforming engine for a few months now, and Super Sunny World seems to be the perfect project to showcase its capabilities. I had a chance to play around with an early build, and it was a blast. It's basically an obstacle course that Matt created for himself to play around in, but it's a good indication of what's to come. With good level design and the twists that Matt puts in, it's going to be one fun experience on your NES. If you're a fan of platformers like Super Mario Bros., this is definitely for you. But let's talk about the game itself. From what I've experienced so far, Super Sunny World promises to be a silky, smooth, and fun as hell experience. And while it might feel similar and bring up nostalgia to Super Mario Bros., there are some subtle differences that make it its own thing. Now this just might be because it's an early build, but Sunny can't jump quite as far as Mario, but controls a little bit better. It's kind of the difference between the way Mario controls in Super Mario 1 and how Mario controls in Super Mario 3. The graphics here are really fun and colorful, and the music so far from what I've heard is very appropriate for this type of game. It doesn't feel like Mario music, but again it invokes that same nostalgia that will make you think of Mario, but it's pretty much its own thing, which is awesome. Anyway, if you're a fan of platformers like Super Mario Bros., this is definitely going to be for you. I'm personally excited to see this game happen. After all, if you've played any of his previous games like From Below or Witch and Whiz, you know he puts out quality stuff. So even though we don't need to, we're going to cross our fingers and hope that Super Sunny World is worth the wait. Well, there you have it, folks. We've taken a wild ride through 5 incredible indie NES games in development. These games are sure to reignite your passion for the classic console and prove that the NES spirit is still alive and well. If you enjoyed this video, remember to hit that like and subscribe button, and please share it with your fellow NES enthusiasts. We're looking forward to seeing you next month when we dive into even more NES indie games. Until then, keep the 8-bit flame burning and game on!